Attacking from side control. To attack and control from side control, you must isolate the upper guard through a crossface and an underhook, as well as the lower guard by keeping your knee flared to limit the mobility of their hips. You need a deep crossface to prevent your opponent from being able to turn their head towards you. Where the head goes, the body must follow. If you prevent your opponent from being able to turn their head, they won't be able to turn towards you to escape. However, the crossface alone is often not enough. This is why you also need an underhook for optimal control. If you can't get a deep underhook, you at least need to be underneath your opponent's elbow as much as possible. They're layer 2. If your opponent's elbow is underneath you, they may use it to take an underhook for themselves, and they may be able to use that underhook to escape. This is also why isolating the upper guard before you pass is often a wise choice, because you'll have the underhook already when the pass is complete. When you have an underhook and your opponent's hand is in front of your head, you can attack submissions like the Americana. If your opponent's hand is behind your head, you can attack submissions like the far side armbar. The underhook will prevent your opponent both from turning away from you and towards you. The far side arm is the more important arm to isolate, more so than the near side arm. Although the near side arm is still important, as they may use it to frame and escape if you don't have adequate control of the head and far side arm and the hips. You can isolate the near side arm by bringing your knee underneath the elbow. They're layer 2. You can also isolate it by bringing your knee over the elbow and keeping your foot on the other side. This is known as a staple. Either method of isolating makes submission so much easier, but stapling is my preferred method. Stapling makes Americanas and far side armbars much easier because they're unable to utilize that arm for defense. If you lack adequate control of the upper guard, your opponent may be able to turn onto their side. In this case, you need to use what's available. You can use your shin placed on the hips to maintain control. This is known as knee on belly. However, it doesn't offer as much control as chest-to-chest connection with upper guard isolation. If you lose chest-to-chest connection, you can seek to take chest-to-back connection instead, as another way of countering them turning onto their side is taking their back. If they turn towards you, you can move yourself all the way around where their back is exposed. If they turn away from you seeking turtle, you can look to take their back as well. You ideally want to take their back before they can get their frames on the mat. This is often accomplished through a chair sit back take once you've established upper guard isolation and chest to back connection. If they do get their frames fully on the mat, you ideally want to insert your hook as they do. The best would be your foot and your knee. and second best, if that's all you can get, would be just your knee. There are a variety of ways to attack the turtle, but the most common and effective is simply dragging your opponent down to the side to take their frames off the mat. With your chest connected to their back, you're connected to them, and where you go, they will go. To advance to mount, there are a variety of different ways, all of which you need to prioritize your opponent not gripping your leg as you attempt the mount entry. My favorite way is to pin the hips down with a low knee on belly, using my frame on the hips to pin them, and then flicking my foot to the side so they can't grip my foot. Immediately, you should look to bring your feet underneath your opponent so you can first control your opponent, and then you can start working to a higher mount to submit. When in side control, the frames of your legs are not facing towards your opponent, and you need to change that. Your frames are facing the mat, but it'll be difficult to use them effectively without your upper guard free from isolation. Because your lower guard is isolated, you need to use your arms to help you free yourself from their isolation. How effectively you can defend is determined by your arm positioning. Let's look at some different ways you can position your arms from best to worst. Best would be your T-Rex arms. The T-Rex arms prevent head control and the underhook. It prevents them from gripping effectively onto you. With your T-Rex arms, it's much easier to bump and shrimp or take an underhook. It'll also be easier to transition to framing. However, it's extremely difficult to take T-Rex arms if your opponent already has control of your head. This is why if you know your guard's gonna get past and you can't use any late escapes, you must prioritize good arm positioning, closing space with your elbow and controlling the far arm from grabbing your head.
What we don't want to happen is just reach up and let them take grips on it. So take that seatbelt grip, right? So he goes move my legs out of the way and I just reach up like this. Well, now I'm letting him have access to my inside position. I have outside position. So this is no good. So if I can't get my knee in, I at least need to make sure that my hands are positioned correctly. So if he goes to move my legs out of the way, ideally, I want to stop him from grabbing my head. I want to use my T-Rex arms. And from here, it's going to be a lot easier to make space, get my frames back in front, and start transitioning to a real guard.
If you can't use your near side arm to prevent head control, then you can at least use it to frame against your opponent's hips. This will allow you to more easily make space to re-guard and give you something to push off of for escapes like bumping and shrimping. You need to keep your far side arm in front of your opponent. The best elbow positioning is your elbow glued to your chest and in front of your opponent's chest, their inside position. This will give you the ability to more easily take underhooks, as well as give you more power to frame with. If your elbow is on the outside, you can still use it to frame, but it won't be as powerful as your elbow on the inside. However, you can still frame on their neck, which is often useful. The worst place to have your far side arm is behind your opponent's back. This arm positioning is a result of your opponent taking an underhook. Escaping will be incredibly difficult, and you run the risk of that arm being isolated and submitted. If your far side arm is behind their back, one method of getting it in front is to do a strong bridge and push off the top of their head to regain proper arm positioning. However, this is extremely difficult and often will not be successful against someone good or strong. Although there are still ways to escape side control when your arm is positioned like this jailbreak escape. But it is absolutely essential to not let your arm end up here in the first place. It makes escaping so much harder. With your near side leg, you should be looking to reinsert your knee at any chance you can get to face your frame towards them. If your opponent is giving up space, then take it. If they're staying really tight, you can use the assistance of your far side leg to help you make space. You do this by framing on the mat with your foot and bridging into your opponent. This will take their weight off of you and make them lose chest-to-chest connection. If you don't also shrimp out, they will more easily put their weight back on you and regain chest-to-chest connection. Bridging takes their weight off you, and shrimping creates distance for you to reinsert your frame. The closer your far side foot is to your butt, the stronger the bridge will be. If you can't use either leg to help you re-guard, to bring your frames back in front, and alternatively simply being patient and waiting for your opponent to try to mount you. As they attempt to, you need to prioritize catching that leg so you can re-guard.